Hi, this is Kat with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to show you how to wire wrap a gemstone onto the Create Recklessly faux leather. Now I have here a couple of tools that you're going to need that are specific to this project. I have a Euro punch, and this is the 1.25 millimeter round hole punch. I have some wire straightening pliers. I have a pair of chain nose pliers and a pair of flush cutters. I also have a pen that I'm going to be using to mark my leather. So here I have the Create Recklessly faux leather, and I just have a little sample strip here for you. I'm going to be using some of the Gemstone amethyst nuggets and the artistic wire in a 24 gauge. So onto the leather here, as you can see in my project that I've made, it looks really seamless. And it looks like it just sort of is wire wrapped on there. So this is the technique I'm going to show you. So it's actually quite easy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over my leather, because you can actually mark up this side, especially in this example, because I backed it and put it on a cuff, so you're not going to see any of these marks. So I'm just going to pick up, I'm going to take the big one here. I think it'll be easier for everyone to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line it up where I want it on my leather and know that it will actually be on this leather when we go to wire wrap it, or this side of the leather. So all I'm going to do is, this is a bead, so it has a top drilled and a bottom hole. So I'm just going to kind of make a little mark with my pen. It doesn't have to be anything too fancy. And I'm going to mark just above and just below where that hole is. And now to the sides, I'm going to do a sort of marking that almost makes it seem underneath, and I'll lift the bead in a second so you can see this. So it makes it seem almost like it's going underneath that bead. So you'll want to kind of get your pen in there and angle it down, because you don't want the wire to go out. You want it to kind of come in behind that bead that you've chosen. So I've sort of made, I'm actually going to kind of move this down a little, sort of made a little circle. And because this is a nugget, you can see that it's a little oddly shaped, so it might not be sort of that perfect circle. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my hole punch pliers, and I recommend that you punch from this side, but what you can do is you can actually see that there's a little tiny opening there for you to line up your hole so that you're punching in the right place. So now I'm just going to go through, and I'm just going to punch through the leather on those little holes that I indicated. And I'm just going to kind of go all the way around. If you're using a larger gauge wire, you can actually just go ahead and use a larger hole punch. But so this is the front of my leather now. I sort of have created nice little holes for my wire wrapping to go right down into. So now that I have my leather prepared, I'm going to take that 24 gauge wire, and I'm going to use about, maybe about 10 inches to a foot. Feel free to use as much or as little as you like. I always err on the side of safety, and I always like to just use a little bit of extra, because you can clip the excess later. Okay, go ahead and set that aside. And I'm just going to straighten out my piece here just a little bit, just to make it easier to work with. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to string on my gemstone and bring it to about the center of whatever that piece of length that you have is. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke the wire through the bottom hole and through that top hole there. And just sort of pull that, and just sort of work with your wire as though it is a string. So you just kind of work it with your fingers so that it now sits onto that piece of leather. So now just take that wire and you can either cross it over in a pattern if you like, or you can kind of do a messy wire wrap. So I'm just going to feed this back down through. And you know, I'm just going to crisscross this one over here. Sorry, let me get that more on the table so y'all can see. Okay, there we go. So now I have my leather poking through here, and you see like I have little sort of hanging. There we go. Just kind of get that out of the way from the hole punch. And just kind of clip that off. Being careful not to clip that leather. I'm a perfectionist, so I'm just trying to clean this up. There we go. Okay, that makes me happier. So now I have the leather coming through the front, as you can see. And now I'm just going to kind of wrap around. And this one I'm going to put through this hole and thread it down. So it kind of traps that gemstone. And this one I'm just going to wrap across to create a kind of neat effect and down. And you can sort of continue to wrap as you like. So now I'm going to go back up through this hole and around through that one to just sort of complete that. And again, just continue sort of just working it with your fingers. You can get your pliers in here. Just be really careful that you don't scratch up your gemstone, whatever you do. So I kind of like the way that sort of looks. So I'm actually going to finish up on this one. So this is the back of my wire wrapping. And again, it'll be all hidden when you attach it to a cuff. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kind of take those tails of that wire, crisscross it over, and do just a little twist. You don't want to do too much because you want it to lay as flat as possible behind whatever piece you're working on. So I'm just going to clip it off. So again, it'll be behind a piece, so you don't need to worry about that wire sort of coming out. But if you want, you can just kind of give it a nice little twist and sort of just tuck those ends in and just sort of flatten that out with the sort of side of your plier so that it is fairly flush and it's all nice and smooth. So there it is. It's really easy. You guys can do this on many of the gemstones or beads or whatever you like. You can do multiple on one, which I think would actually look really neat. But again, here's just my example, and so you can see sort of the finished product and see how neat it kind of looks. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I will see you for our next video at Beadaholique.com.